You don't need to be a tech person to care about cybersecurity.
It's more than just about protecting networks, it's ultimately about protecting people.
The human factor in cybersecurity often gets neglected, and we are here to bridge that gap.
Are you ready to get lost in Cyberia with us? Welcome back to another episode of Lost in Cyberia. We're your hosts, Annie May
And Annika. We have a very special guest today. We have Kimberley Roberts-Salee from Cyber Wardens.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. Kim, did you want to give our listeners a bit of an introduction about yourself and Cyber Wardens?
Yeah, so I'm the head of marketing and comms at Cyber Wardens, but I'm also one of the Cyber Wardens educators. So when I say Cyber Wardens educators, I should probably take a step back and say what Cyber Wardens is. Cyber Wardens is a program for small businesses. It's a cybersecurity training program for small businesses that's funded by the Australian government, and it's all free. And as part of the delivery, and we can get into the weeds of it in a little bit, but as part of the delivery for the program, we do a lot of in-person and webinars, and I'm one of the educators that delivers the training. So my background is mostly in small business marketing and communications, so I really understand from a lived experience perspective what small businesses, what their pain points are, what their challenges are, and really how they operate, and that's really helped me relate to our small business audience.
Yeah, great. And touching on what you mentioned, talking to small business owners about the challenges that they're facing, what are the biggest challenges that they're facing when it comes to cybersecurity?
The main thing that people tell us all the time, there's kind of two things. There's, of course, the small businesses, they don't have enough time, they don't have enough resources, they feel overwhelmed quite a lot of the time. So that's always kind of across the board. And I think that's like everyone, really. We always feel like we're time poor, we don't have enough resources. And coupled with the fact that a lot of them think that cybersecurity is a big bad thing and that it's really scary. They don't really know about cybersecurity. They've heard of it. They think it's a guy in a basement doing all the scams, and they don't really realize that it's not really something that they have to fear. It's something that they need to be able to just understand and to get those tools and those practical actions they can put in place to protect themselves. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in terms of the lack of resources, the overwhelm, but also the desire to put their head in the sand and not really think about cybersecurity until something happens and then it's too late.
We talk about it a lot in the podcast, the many different biases and maybe misconceptions that are around cybersecurity. We do talk to a few people in the podcast that came to cyber from very different walks of life. So you came to cyber from marketing, right?
Yep.
So how did you end up in the cyberspace?
That's actually a great question. So for a bit of background as well, Cyber Wardens is an initiative of COSBOA, which is the Council of Small Business Organisations of Australia. It's funded by the Australian government. It's also funded by an industry alliance with CommBank and Telstra, and it's delivered by a delivery partner called 89 Degrees East. So I work for 89 Degrees East, and I've come across in the team with the marketing and comms background that I already had, and also the fact that I don't have a cyber background was actually a really good benefit to the team, because I wasn't coming in with preconceived notions. I wasn't coming in with all the jargon. I was kind of coming in at the small business level, which is where I'd been before in other roles, and I was coming in at the same level as the people that we're talking to. So it really helped me develop the audience first strategy that we've got in terms of our comms, really talk to people at the plain language, accessible level, because that's also what I relate to. You know, I want to know how to update my password, how to set up the multi-factor authentication. I don't need to know the weeds of how everything works. I just want to know how to protect myself, how small businesses can protect themselves, and really relate to them at that same level, because that's a level that I'm from as well in terms of a cyber background.
So for someone who's listening who might be a small business owner, they've never heard of Cyber Wardens before, what kind of training can they do that would then enable them to help them with their business?
So we have a course catalog on cyberwardens.com.au. We have a range of different courses that are self-paced. So we have online courses that you can do through our, what we call it LMS, a learning management system. So those are online courses that you can do at your own pace. We've got different levels. So our first level is Foundations. That's a 10-minute course that essentially delivers those foundations. So those passwords, MFA, how to recognize red flags, and how to change your habits online to make sure that you're safer. Then we've got level 1, which is a bit of a deeper dive into some of the concepts that we have in foundations. We also have level 2, which is our safe AI for small business. And of course, with the prevalence of AI, that's been a really popular one, and that's a course that needs to always evolve as well with what's happening, because as we know, AI is just going a mile a minute. And then we have level 3, which is cybersecurity for your supply chain. So that one is for small businesses who work with bigger contractors, government contractors, tier 1 contractors, and it's to help them essentially make sure that them as a link in the supply chain are safe, because we know that cyber criminals go for the weakest link. So if that's a small business, because they're the lowest hanging fruit, because they don't have all those cybersecurity infrastructure that the big corporations or organizations have, cyber criminals will go to them. So we've got those ones, and then all of those are offered through webinars as well. So we do live webinars, which we do often with guest speakers. So we'll invite guest speakers from different organizations, government. So we've got, for example, the Australian Signals Directorate, IP Australia, Home Affairs, and then we'll have corporations like MasterCard, Microsoft, Xero, Beyond Blue. We partner with those organizations to not only reach out to their own small business audiences, but to help them deliver that training to their audience. So it kind of gives them that leadership in cybersecurity. It makes their customers see them as they're on the forefront of wanting their customers to be equipped with the cybersecurity knowledge, and it helps us also reach different audiences. So there's a range of courses. There's a bit of everything for everyone. And the course catalog on our website is really comprehensive, so if you go in there, you can have a look. We've also got some translated courses in French and in Vietnamese for called communities within Australia, so there's something for everyone. And it's for small businesses, but also those principles apply to everyone. Mm-hmm. So yes, you can apply them in a small business, but if you're just an individual who's interested in knowing how to secure your own accounts, it's also really valid as well.
And we will put the link as well in the show notes to make sure that people can go and check
Great.
it out. Do you find it more useful for people to do online training, or do you see more engagement from, I guess, face-to-face deliveries?
Yeah, that's why we actually came up with the webinar model. So at first it was only online courses. And what we found, our courses were about 45 minutes. So what we found is that even if you tell people it's only 45 minutes, it's really hard to find 45 minutes to do something, especially when you've got so many things on your plate already. So giving people a time and a date as a webinar, and then putting a person in front of them, talking to them in their language, and when I say in their language, like in their kind of accessible, tech-free language, that's really increased the engagement with the content and with the course. And also our live webinars have Q&A at the end as well. So they can ask questions, not only of the Cyber Wardens educators, but of the experts that come online as well. So we had a webinar with the Australian Signals Directorate recently, where we actually had, I had to stop the webinar because the questions were just coming in, and we were at time. But you really see the engagement, and people really value that kind of not one-on-one, obviously, because it's a webinar, but that in-person aspect. And we do in-person workshops as well, sometimes in different organizations or different cities. I think the in-person really has helped us reach more people and make that topic more human.
Yeah, I think in-person is always so much better for
I agree.
training.
Yeah.
I get nothing out of online training. I'm always just like, it's been
and you
an
just
hour.
go through the whole thing and you're like, yeah, I know.
You're just staring at a screen and you're just like, oh, when's this finish?
Exactly. And that's why the webinar model that we launched, it was off, I think 18 months ago now, has been really helpful in reaching more people and getting that engagement. A lot of people come back to multiple webinars, so they don't just do one and kind of forget. They come back, they watch more. It helps that we have different guest speakers, so if they want to hear about the Australian Signals Directorate one week, and the next week they want to hear about Microsoft, they can come back and watch the different webinars as well.
Yeah, okay. Because I have quite a few friends who run their own businesses now, and I think especially as we have gotten older and people have got that work experience on their belt, and then they've gone on to build their own business, and especially in that kind of like e-commerce space, they're selling products online. And that comes with a lot of risk when it comes to personal data for their customers, right? Because they're not only the customers are giving over their information, but also their financial information. Yeah. So there's so many different areas that someone who comes from a different background, say marketing or business or whatever it is, doesn't have that knowledge to then think, oh, I also have to worry about the IT and the cybersecurity. So in terms of the kind of attacks that you're seeing in small businesses, in my mind, I'd imagine there'd be something like invoice scams or phishing emails and stuff like that. Like, is that what is most commonly being targeted with small businesses? Or?
Yeah, there's kind of 3 crimes that are the most common that we see with small businesses. And it's really true what you say as well, is that someone who starts a business, they've got expertise in one area, but they need to become everything. They need to become ops manager, marketing, IT, finance. They don't necessarily have all of those skills. And that's why cybersecurity is one of the things that kind of falls by the side, because it's one more thing that's complicated. So to go back to the crimes that target those small businesses, the inbox break-in or business email compromise is one of the main one for small businesses, but also for individuals. Essentially, that's when a cyber criminal breaks into your inbox. They're able to do that often because of weak passwords. So if you use a password, your pet's name, or password 123, or, and then if you reuse that password over multiple accounts, they're able to break into your email inbox if that one isn't protected. From there, all the information that's in there, it's basically at their, they can use it for whatever they want to do. They can send out those fake invoices. So invoice scam is another big one for small businesses, often receiving an invoice from who you think is a trusted supplier, but it's actually a cyber criminal. So they'll just have replicated an invoice from your real supplier. And with AI, it's so easy to do that now, and they just change the bank details. And then another one as well is online banking fraud. So in the same vein where they can get access to your bank account if you have weak passwords, if that's the same on your bank account, they can access your bank account. And then once they're in there, well, they have access to your money and they can do whatever they want as much as you would be able to. So that's why, especially with bank accounts, multi-factor authentication is a huge one. And I've noticed even in the past 2-3 years that I've been with Cyber Wardens, I've noticed my bank really put a lot more protection in place just when I'm doing not even huge transactions. And that's reassuring, but it's still something that we want to make sure as individuals, as small businesses, that our bank accounts are protected and we don't just trust that the bank is going to do the right thing. So those are kind of 3 crimes that are the most prevalent. And then with that comes the phishing scams and everything. So they're able to impersonate someone that you know and able to impersonate organization and then send those phishing links. And then once you click on there and you log in, you've pretty much given them your login details. So the one thing that I tell people all the time, the one thing when we do the webinars and the in-person training, one thing that I want people to remember, long, strong, unique passwords with multi-factor authentication is kind of if you just need to take 2 things today, those are the 2 things that will go a long way into starting to protect your accounts.
What you're saying about the banks and I guess the other big corporations as well, and there are more requirements on them recently, which is good. I think perhaps maybe there is also a lot of reliance on the government or the big institution will do the right thing. Somebody has done something to prevent this from happening, right? And that realization of, oh, actually it's on yourself. And now you also need to be doing this as well, and you need to protect yourself. I guess from marketing, and you're the expert to answer this, right? You can have that fear approach. We are going to scare you into compliance with password length. But what do you find works the best as an approach to soften the view of cybersecurity for them?
We actually tried the fear approach. We had, as you go through a program and you try different things to see what works best. At first, we started to be just really empowering and positive, and cybersecurity is easy, and that didn't really have any cut through. So then we went the fear route, the skin cancer campaigns and the smoking campaigns, and just worst case scenario.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just imagining a ghost.
Well, yeah. We had some campaigns.
So someone appearing on the background.
Well, we had some campaigns that were close to that, to be honest. It wasn't a ghost, but it was a hacker dressed in all black. So we've gone down the fear route.
Give me your password.
Pretty much, literally. I can show you a video after. But what we found had the most cut through was being relatable and using the human aspect. And when we started to use more of our team in our social media, for example, using real people talking to people one-on-one or kind of just discussing at a very kind of human level what cybersecurity is, that's really where the cut through was. So, yes, the fear, and it's easy to say like, you're going to lose $56,000 because that's the average cost. But it's really kind of explaining what that $50,000 is. Like, it could close down your business. It could be so much money that you could spend on equipment or on staff. And then in terms of the financial cost, there's also the mental health cost as well, the stress, the anxiety of a cybercrime. So we've kind of taken that approach, basically just making it relatable to people. And that's helped. And then combined with the kind of more in-person delivery model as well.
Yeah, because I can imagine it's somewhat helpful to hear someone from the government talking about what ASD does and stuff, but for an everyday person, it's not really relevant to them, right? What the government does has no relevancy to their everyday. Like, say if someone's running, I don't know, like a plumbing business, like they don't care
exactly
what ASD does, like day to day.
And like it does have relevance, but they don't see it directly. They don't see like the application directly to their to their own business. So so it's kind of taking those real examples and keeping it at a pretty, I don't want to say basic, because it's not like our small business audience, they're really smart people. Obviously, they're people who run businesses, but it's just taking it, stripping all the tech jargon out of it, stripping all the complicated words, and just basically telling people, A, what could happen, but also how to protect themselves, and also how to share that kind of knowledge with their team as well. That's another thing that we talk about a lot, is making sure that it's not just you who knows all the things in the business. As a business owner, if you have a team of 10 people, you want to make sure that they're also all across those tools, those tips, so that, as we said before, one person can be the weakest link. So we want to make sure that everybody on the team is educated on it.
Do the business owners find they have any pushback from trying to get their employees to be on board with doing that as well? We
get a lot of feedback from business owners who've used the program and who've shared it with their team. We haven't really received feedback that has been like, oh, my team didn't want to do it. Maybe they just don't tell us. But we've received, on the flip side of that, a lot of people, and even when we do, like, we've done a lot of public events like South by Southwest, and we've gone to a few conferences as well. People come to see us and they'll be like, I saw your ad on Instagram, I did your program, and I thought it was really good, so I got my team to do it, and then the whole team has done it, and everybody feels safer. So there might be pushback, like there is everywhere. Employees are humans as well. Not everybody wants to do the mandated education or training. But I think that overall it's been more useful for owners to share it with their team than not.
Do you think cybersecurity needs a makeover?
We need to stop thinking about the guy in the basement. I think people need to really understand that cyber criminals are actually like organizations. They're huge companies, like Fortune 500 companies. They are really sophisticated. So it's probably not a makeover in a good way, because it makes it even scarier. But I think people need to understand that it's not a guy in the basement with a hoodie on. They're really sophisticated, and they've got thousands of people working for them. It's organized crime, essentially. It's just not the traditional organized crime that we think about. So I think that's where the image needs to shift, and people need to really understand that it's a huge business.
And do you think with the cyber criminals themselves, I guess they are very misrepresented and times have changed? I guess because it does stem from the IT world, which is, as you say, very not human focused. I guess like we talk a lot about investing, and I think it really helps. I think Anime got me onto a lot of women in investing podcast and
investing shares.
Investing. Investing. Like
we were talking about that when we first.
I mean, like finance jargon and so on. And so I have thought of myself of somebody who is good in finance is not me as well. So it's like I think cybersecurity and both IT, they had this upbringing from, first of all, the people who know a lot about these things don't look the same. So it's like the consumers and the people who are SMEs don't look like me. But also like there is that focus on the technology versus the human aspect of it. Like, that kind of like makeover. Like how did you find like translating that more in,
Well, that's a really good point that you make as well in terms of small businesses. They don't all look like us. Like the small business community is a really diverse community. There's not just like one type of small business. So it's been really trying to make sure that we speak to as many as possible. What's really helped to do that has been partnering with organizations or peak bodies. So example, master builders, they're talking to tradies. They've got that language. They've got that trusted brand. So we've partnered with them. Same with, you'd be surprised, but acupuncturists and traditional medicine practitioners are really into cybersecurity. So we've partnered with the, it's been like a little
the collab
surprising.
You didn't know existed.
Exactly. We've, I
love that.
I know.
I love that so much.
We work with the Australian Acupuncture and Chinese Medicine Association and with the Australian Traditional Medicine Society. And whenever we do webinars with them, by far the most registrations from their members. It's actually really amazing. So if you go to an acupuncturist, they're probably really cyber safe. Your data's safe with them. But all this is to say that, yeah, it's a very diverse crowd. And so it's really helped, like as I was saying before, to just kind of like take it back to the basics. And like those finance podcasts is to kind of try to relate to them and to talk to something that they'll understand. So if we talk to tradies, if we do a webinars for tradies, we'll use construction examples. We'll use, scams that happen in the construction industry. Same if we're talking to the healthcare industry, and the healthcare industry is the number one industry for cybercrime, which is no surprise really when you think of the information that we give our doctors. So we use examples based on their industry. So that's kind of how we try to relate to all of them without being a tradie and an acupuncturist and an accountant and all of that.
Yeah, and I think especially because people, when they hear cybersecurity, it's because it has that connotation of being related to IT.
Yeah.
And then people go, I don't know anything about computers, and they kind of throw their hands up. And you're going, okay, well, do you use a computer every day? Like
exactly.
Most people do, even if they don't use a computer, they're using a phone, right? Like you're using technology every day. You're online every day. If you can use those devices, you're already halfway there.
Yeah, and you're a target, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it goes back to the idea of, say, like someone breaking into your house. Like a thief breaks into someone's house and they steal a bunch of stuff. Does that person then just give up on security and then leave the front door open? Like, no, of course they're going to install security cameras. They're going to get better locks on the house. Like, they're going to upgrade their security. So I don't know why we have this idea with online security. They go, oh, my data's online, so there's no point trying to secure it.
It's already out there, so it's too late. One thing that people say to us all the time, which kind of cracks me up, is when we go to like public events and stuff and we try to talk to them about cybersecurity, the people who don't want to hear about it, who kind of like have their head in the sand. And there's different levels of maturity with cybersecurity. But one of the things that people say, they'll say like, oh no, I've already got cyber. And I think what they're trying to say is they've got like an IT supplier or like someone who looks after their security, but they don't understand what cybersecurity is. So they're just like, no, I've already got cyber. And then they kind of walk away because they don't want to hear any more about it. But like you said, if you've got a phone, if you've got even just like an Apple Watch or something, if you've got any kind of device, you are susceptible to being targeted. And I like the house analogy because if you're on a street and every house has a lock and an alarm system, but yours doesn't, the cyber criminals are just going to go in your house. They're not discerning. They don't care who you are, what you do. They just look for the lowest hanging fruit. So yeah, you would lock up your door and you would hope to do that before you lose all your valuables in your house. It's the same thing with your online data. And yeah, it's kind of like putting your head in the sand to think, oh, my data's already out there. There's still always things that we can do to make sure that we protect our data, our money, our financial information, our business information, and our customers' information, which is really important as well.
Yeah, because you said about the supply chain. And that's probably the one where like fear is probably a big thing, because that's the one that's connected to the most reputational and brand impact and the money itself. You can think about ways to recover from that, but recovering from reputational damage, very different. Yeah, and people who have cyber. Have cyber?
Yeah.
I have cyber. Sorry.
See, it is catchy. I've already got cyber.
My ghosts are in order. It's all sorted. I wonder if they understand that them having cyber and thinking that they have transferred this risk of reputational impact to someone else doesn't actually transfer that risk at all, right?
And that's such a good point, is that they're still holding the risk, because if the breach happens with their own company, not only is the reputational risk to their suppliers or to their clients if they're working with a big client, but also to their own customers as well. And that's another intangible when we talk about the cost of a cybercrime. Yes, there's the money, like you said, and money, hopefully you can recover financially. Yes, there's a mental health aspect of it as well. But yeah, your reputation is something that you build over years. It's something that you do all the time. It's the way that you present to your customers. It's your brand. It's the way that you talk to people. It's the way that you show up with the delivery of your services. And that can just go like this. And that is really scary, because that's the intangible that you can't put a price on it. But once your reputation is damaged, it's really hard to claw back.
Yeah, and we saw that with the MediSecure attack, where a online e-scripting company, where people had their data leaked on the dark web, so then all their health information is then online, and they tried to get bailed out by the government, but the government refused to bail them out, and they
couldn't recover.
They were done. That was the end of them. Yeah,
it's huge. Whenever I give the example of small businesses are a target, it's not just the big corporations, it's not just the big organizations. I still say, like, it's not just Optus, it's not just Medibank. That was years ago now, that like the Optus breach happened, the Medibank breach. We still think about it. Like Qantas, obviously last year, we still think about it all the time as well. So yeah, that stays with you, and it's something that's really hard to come back from.
So should we as consumers hold smaller businesses to account more as well?
I think it's really smart to just, if you're dealing with like even just a tradie or something, just making sure that you double check. If you receive an invoice from your plumber, do the same thing as you would as a small business. Call the plumber and just say, hey, are those your banking details before I pay you, I don't know, $5,000. It's always good to also just double check that whenever you get information from a small business, double check the email address. Just the same thing that you would do for anything, really. It's just not being paranoid, but just taking the time to pause and to check the information that you're receiving, check the invoices that you're receiving, and just having that kind of awareness. Yeah, I don't want people to be paranoid and not do anything as consumers or as small businesses, but it's just having that awareness and taking that time to pause and just assessing, especially when there's big amounts of money. I remember when my partner and I bought our house, that was before I worked in cybersecurity, we just transferred the deposit for our whole house to the real estate agent. Yeah. They gave us a bank account, and we're like,
and that wouldn't have been a
cool
small amount.
No. And we were like, okay, cool. So double check the number before you hit send. But that's all. Like, we didn't call them. We didn't say like, hey, can we just double check? And people do that all the time. And it would have taken 5 minutes to just call them before we transferred many dollars.
Yeah. I think what you were saying before, I think it is good to have a healthy level of skepticism, because I have worked with people who are literally paranoid.
Yes.
I'm talking driving different ways to work every day, not paying with anything on their card.
Because your GPS knows.
Doesn't even have like a phone that's made by a company.
I mean, we still have to live in the world as well.
Well, that's the thing, right? You when you go about your daily life, you have to have some level of risk that you're willing to, like, for example, like I travel a lot. I'm often going to countries where, their cybersecurity ain't, even here it's questionable, right? Like, especially when we're talking about smaller businesses, because there is no kind of mandatory requirements that they have to follow. But so you have to have some level of like, well, I hope this is a real company.
Yeah.
And I can do all the due diligence in the world, but I still don't have 100% guarantee that I'm going to get whatever it is that I'm paying for. But and again, it's like you have to have that level of trust, because otherwise I wouldn't leave the house every morning.
That's right, exactly. It would be too scary. And it's also having like those basics in place, which if you do end up clicking on a link and you think it's a legitimate link and you put in your login details and stuff like that, if it's the one login detail for the one account, but you don't have the same password everywhere else, the damage is still limited to that one account. Obviously, it's not ideal, but it's just making sure that, you've got those basics in place to help you go through the world, drive to work, travel, but also just not doing anything blindly and just making sure that you assess anything before you go ahead and do anything that's required of you online. And, the big governments, banks, a lot of large retailers, they'll tell you, they're pretty open about saying that, like, we'll never send you a link to click. So if you receive an email from the ATO and it's saying click here to log in, don't do it, because they tell you pretty adamantly that they're never going to do that. Same with your banks. So it's also just kind of listening to what those organizations tell us as customers.
And the thing is, I think we've talked about it previously in our podcast as well. You do have the right to check. Like if a tradie comes to your house and says, hey, I'm here to service this and this on behalf of this person, you can ask for their ID. So, and maybe that's us as people being very polite and, I wouldn't want to question their cybersecurity posture. No, you can. This is your prerogative. Like, you absolutely are empowered to do that.
That's so true. Yeah, you would, if someone knocks on your door asking to come in, you would say, sorry, who are you?
I think the NBN is a good example of that.
Yeah.
Because I had someone knock on my door last year, I think, and he said, I'm from the NBN. And I said, oh, okay. He's like, I need to look at something in your backyard, whatever. And I said, okay, that's fine. Like, can I see your ID?
Yeah.
I'm like, what percentage of people would actually ask that? Probably very few people. They would just be like, oh yeah, no worries, like gates around the side. Yeah. If you wouldn't let a stranger into your house, why would you then do the same thing online with someone that you actually have never seen before in your life? Like, you're only interacting via a screen. Yeah,
that's a really good analogy. Yeah. Like, they might go like, why are you calling me? That's annoying. But like, because I'm about to pay you $5,000, $10,000. That's why I'm calling you, just to make sure that my money goes to where it's saying it's going to go. And I think like a lot of small businesses now with their customers, they'll understand that as well. Like, we've done it after our house deposit, which luckily got into this right account. But after that, like with tradies, like we call the tradies now and we're just like, can we just double check your bank account before we transfer? And they're fine. I mean, they're getting the money, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, I mean, if I were to pay somebody $5,000 and they were acting like I was annoying, like I would not pay them $5,000.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, like,
do you want my money?
Sorry, do you want my business?
Yeah.
So yes, I imagine that most of the small business owners will be okay with this, but also us being empowered as consumers to ask this question will actually create a different understanding for the small business owners who are not bought in, the ones who have cyber already, that the world is different and it's being demanded of them as well. Like, this is the new requirement.
It's a culture change, essentially, that takes time, but it's a culture change that we need to do as customers, consumers, and also that's going to hopefully amplify through businesses that we deal with as well. So it's a culture change within an organization, but also within the broader culture, within society.
What would be your biggest tip for a small business that needs to change that cybersecurity culture?
Well, I would say go to cyberwardens.com.au to do the training. But honestly, to start with, have those conversations with your staff. Have those honest conversations. Remove any embarrassment around cybersecurity. A big thing as well is, oh no, I've clicked on that link, like I don't want to tell anyone, I'm going to get in trouble. Remove any stigma around cybersecurity. I always say, like, if you had a cold, you wouldn't be embarrassed about it. You would tell people and you'd say, like, I'm sick, I'm not feeling well. If you click on a link, just tell someone, and that way you can mitigate the consequences before something bigger happens. If you've paid an invoice, hopefully you can freeze the amount before it goes into that account, stuff like that. So having that conversation as small business owners with your team, removing the embarrassment out of it, removing the shame out of it. And then one thing that I always say in all the training that we do is long, strong, unique passwords with multi-factor authentication. And honestly, that's the same tips that we have webinars with ASD, Microsoft. The basics are still the same. Every single big organization, government organizations, they'll say start with password hygiene and multi-factor authentication. And it's not like foolproof, but you'll go a long way in securing your account. So I would say talk to people, talk to your team, talk to your friends and family about it, but also make sure that you've got those really basics in place.
also, like you're saying, listen to what is happening in the world around you, be aware. You've talked about the AI courses that Cyber Wardens also provides and how much it has changed. And multi-factor will be very good, and there is definitely like phishing resistant multi-factor that you can do, but there is a lot of that part where you are able to do deep fakes now in an alarming way. And again, it's probably not the level of effort that a cyber criminal will go for a small business, but the easier it becomes, it will become probably more accessible. So I think that that's where, when you're saying talk to your staff about it, is so important. I heard it in CyberCon, have like a safe
have a code word
with your staff. You know, I don't know. For me, it's like so exciting. It's like we have code words. You know,
it's very analog.
It's very analog. We have gone back in time. We are becoming more and more.
Exactly.
And it's a bit more fun, maybe. What do you see the future looking like in the next, I don't know, I wanted to say 5 years, but the way AI is going, in the next 2 years.
5 weeks.
5 weeks. I
mean, it's in terms of AI, like it's not even, like you said, it's not even a matter of years anymore. It's matter of months. But I think in terms of the future of cybersecurity, and you know, there's a lot of cyber experts that have a lot more experience than me in this, but I think it's just making sure that we keep talking about it as a society, as within the culture, making sure that it's always part of those conversations, and making it something as obvious as, you know, setting up your accounts, or setting up, you know, when you hire someone, making it part of their onboarding, making sure they've got their cybersecurity training, just like you would get their forms and their super and all that stuff, make it part of the onboarding. I think just making it part of our everyday lives, because it really is. It's ingrained in everything that we do online. I mean, for me anyway, there's not a lot that I don't do online anymore, which is why the code word is quite fun, because it is very old school. I would say we just need to keep talking about it as a society in general.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, I think that's a good place to end. So I guess if there's a few takeaways people should have who are running a small business, have long passwords that don't have anything that gives away information in it that could, you know, like your pet's name, where you live, or something really common.
Your birthday.
Password, the word password. Make sure you implement multi-factor authentication and have code words.
Code words, and talk about it.
And think before you do something big, like fork out a lot of money and transfer it to someone who you haven't verified that it is the right account.
Be empowered, feel like you can ask for assurance from your providers.
Okay, well, thank you, Kim, for coming on the podcast
today. Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.
Yeah, and is it cyberwardens.com.au?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that was a good guess.
That's an easy one.
I have been on the website, but I couldn't remember the website off the top of my head.
Yeah, and we've got all the courses there, and they're really easy to join. So.
Okay, great.
And thank you to our listeners as well for joining us for another episode of Lost in Cyberia.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.